Hello, Ace friends. Welcome to this year's No Limits 2 contest. And this year, to celebrate the legacy of aerodynamics, we thought we'd have a bit of a different challenge. Rather than recreate one of the existing aero coasters out there, we thought it'd be a little more interesting to discover what would aero build today. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look at aero's history. Of course, shortly after they created the Matterhorn bobsleds, one of the most famous roller coasters in the entire world, and the first to use steel tubes versus angle iron or other flat track of that nature, one of the most popular aero roller coaster products that started popping up absolutely everywhere are mine trains. The early day mine trains were very simple affairs, very low to the ground, not a lot in terms of the hills. The curves were very simple, very kind of flat and level. Some banking, not a lot going on, but very simple shapes that were easy to manufacture and design. As time went by, the coaster designs got a little more complex. The curves started to change radius a little bit more out and got a little more complicated overall, to some of the most recent mine trains created by aerodynamics with influences from new designers started to get a lot more fluid, free flowing, and better banking controls, and it just turns that just transition nicely from one to the next. And yet, they still felt like an aero coaster. Let's take a look at some other examples. Of course, while very well known for their mine trains, Arrow was also known for really big mine trains that got over 200 feet tall, which, if we're being completely honest with ourselves about Arrow hypercoasters, they're just massive mine trains, right? Right, of course. Yes, you can't argue with me. I'm on the internet. So, even these massive creations did go through some evolution, and while there aren't that many aero hypercoasters to look at, they still did get a little more complicated and a little more sophisticated in their design as time went by, starting to do some more complicated shapes, a little more complicated track bending to create some more thrilling things, and yet still felt like an aero coaster somehow. Aero was also very well known for creating the first corkscrew inversion. 1 year before the vertical loop was pioneered by Schwarzkopf, Aero created a brand new type of inversion, the corkscrew. And these corkscrew models, along with the loop screw models, sold like crazy. Every park wanted to have one, with Knott's Berry Farm getting the very first. And why not? Such an iconic, amazing inversion, looked great over the midways, super photogenic. They're fantastic and a lot of fun, and again, very much a pioneering roller coaster company, roller coaster element. These, of course, over time became bigger into custom looping coasters with larger inversions, larger layouts, yet still kind of simple in the design language. Here we have the, dearly departed, recently gone Vortex that looked great in photos, was a bit rough, but again, more complicated things going on in this layout, more complicated inversions. And then over time, the design got even more complicated with additional twists and turns being added and new ideas. Still kind of the same shaped elements, but they're trying new things and the designs are getting more sophisticated. Over time, of course, these changed even further as the simple corkscrew design was updated with a new design language, much more smooth, fluid curves, transitioning from one turn to the next. More banking on the first drop, so things aren't quite as flat. They definitely flowed and had a much more natural feel to them to ride a lot smoother. To the most recent mega looping coaster from Arrow, Tennessee Tornado, that was much, much smoother than anything that had come before it. Big giant inversions, lots of custom track shaping that was unlike anything else. And yet, you know what? It still felt like an Arrow, and not just because of those trains and that very iconic track shape. Something still made it feel like an Arrow. Aerodynamics, of course, also managed to make the suspended coaster a reality. After one notable false start, they did get successful coasters built. Again, these started off fairly simple, staying low to the ground with fairly simple curves and helices that were not really that challenging, again, because they're trying to figure it out. And again, over the years, some of the later designs started to get much more aggressive with bigger hills, more fluid turns, and all sorts of more excitement and swinging action going on, along with structures that were capable of going much higher above the ground than some of those early versions. And then, of course, they went completely insane and decided, what if we took the same mechanism that makes the seats spin in the Haunted Mansion, mounted that vertically on coaster cars, and flip people forwards and backwards during the ride? So this, of course, not that many people have had a chance to ride this overall since so few of these have been built, but one of the absolute craziest roller coasters that has ever been created. And even this went through some additional iterations, taking the ideas another step further with even more complicated twists and turns, challenging what else can we do with this innovative track style. So that brings us to our challenge. Thinking about all of this, what would Aero build today? What we want you to do, design the coaster that you think Aero would build today using NoLimits 2 in one of these styles. You can use corkscrew or a custom looping coaster style. You can make something that looks like a mine train or special coaster systems. And of course, those are something like Gemini at Cedar Point or Excalibur at Valley Fair. Those are not quite hyper coasters, but certainly things that are doing some rather large hills, quick transitions left and right, no inversions, but lots of thrills still to be had. Of course, you can go even bigger and make the next hyper coaster from Aero. What would that look like today? Or maybe you'd like to see what would happen if the new suspended coaster was built today. What would that look like? Or, hey, maybe the next 4D coaster. What could that look like? Come up with what you think is going to look like. But most importantly, of course, it's going to be smooth, as modern coasters are, yet still look and feel like an Aero coaster. What is it? What is that special magic that you can look at and say, you know what, that is definitely an aerodynamics coaster. Figure out what that is and put that into your design. All of the entries are due by 10 a.m. Pacific Time, Monday, June 7th. Official rules and the entry link are available in the video description below, and we'll have those available for you. If you have any questions on what to do or some clarification on the rules, please feel free to email us. You can reach us at nolimitscontest@gmail.com. So, who are going to be judging all of these entries? Well, quite frankly, your fellow ACE members are going to be judging. Just as we did last time, it worked out really, really well to have all ACE members open to looking at the finished results and providing their input for what they think is going to be that special Aero magic and a modern twist. We're going to download all of the submissions and then film them inside of NoLimits to create a POV video of that ride experience. Very important, please double check the link that you submitted. Make sure it works. Cannot tell you how many times we've gone to click on that Google Drive link that somebody left in its default permission state and we cannot download the coaster. So please double check it, make sure that it does work. Easiest way to do that, open a new tab that's an incognito or private tab. Check to see that the download still works. If it does, it'll work for us. If it doesn't, go change the permissions so we can get it. Please. We will not have enough time to get a hold of everybody to fix these problems. We'll have to proceed without you. So double check that, make sure it works. We will film these videos and upload them to the official ACE YouTube channel. And then we're going to distribute a judging form to all ACE members to watch and rate each video on a scale of 1 to 10. We'll average the scores out, and the top 3 average scores are going to win amazing prizes donated to us by our friends at S&S Worldwide. The grand prize is an original aerodynamics blueprint of a sidewinder element, scanned and then reproduced in modern computer equipment. But look at this. How great would it be to have this? This could be yours if you win this contest. Second place and third place are going to win a t-shirt and a hat, respectively. Still awesome prizes, and we're so happy that our friends at S&S donated these amazing prizes for us to give out to the top 3 people who place in this contest. So, what would Aerodynamics build today? Build it inside of NoLimits 2, send it in, show it to us, and maybe you can win one of these amazing prizes. Thank you very much for being an ACE member and participating in this contest. We look forward to seeing all of the finished results. And now, of course, that the pandemic restrictions are easing, have a great time. Be safe out there. Enjoy those amusement parks. They have missed you. We have missed them. Go out there, have lots of fun, be safe. But before you do that, send us your coasters of what would Aero build today. Thank you very much.